One, two, one, two. I think it's time to get this show up on the road. What do you guys think? Think we should do this? I think we should do this. Ready, set, let's go. Hello, hello. Take some of this music down just a little bit here. Getting ready to get this show started. Unfortunately, we're sitting back to back against Stephen Ignoramus again, and I do hope that we do enjoy both shows. Looks like he's got a good guest on today. I know that I was supposed to have a guest on today, but we had some unforeseen circumstances, so that it was not able to happen, unfortunately. And it is a bit too bad, because I was looking forward to having this conversation. Now something else has come up, and I don't know when we're going to have the conversation again, but the news stops for nobody. Let's get some music out of here, and I think it's time for us to go ahead and get started. Anyway, welcome to Ed Talk. My name is Jay Edgar. If you're new here, this is going to be a listener Q&A, so I'm actually going to take the live chat and put it up right in front of me here. Usually it'll sit right off in the screen that's off to my left, but because this is for the viewers and by the viewers, and the viewers get to decide what we talk about here, I'm going to leave that chat right in front of us. So feel free to get your questions in, get your topics in, and we will go along. I do have a few things that we want to talk about today before we get started here. Let me minimize this so I'm actually not watching myself wave over here on this other screen here. I've got a few things on the schedule that I can talk about here today, but I don't want to talk too much about my own schedule here, so let's see if we can get some conversation going and get you guys up, in, and ready to go. Scroll down here so I can monitor what's going on over here. Anyway, if you're new to this show, my name is Jay Edgar. What we do here, Ron Helton is deciding which platform to watch on here. I recommend DLive because I'm going to pop the chest later. And that means you're going to get some of that sweet, sweet lino. And I just put 20 lemons into the chest. So if we get a lot more people up here and chatting, that's going to get everything much, much better. And you're going to get a big payout. So we are streaming live right now to Twitch, DLive, YouTube, no Facebook because we're still being zucked and we're still being punished by the great Zuckerberg. So we can't get on Facebook over there. So I hope that my Facebook friends saw my message and they popped in because I would love to hear from some of them as well. And I mean, this is not restricted to politics. The first time I had one of these, somebody asked me about cars. And it's not restricted to right-wing or libertarian ideas either. I mean, I would love to get some more lefties in here and up and talking. So we can talk about anything here. Of course, the only rule that I have here is that I won't answer any questions that are based on blatant racism. So you can throw them in the chat if you absolutely want to, but I'm not going to read them. So just to understand that as we go. And as we go along, remember that the live chat is deleted on YouTube afterwards. So you don't have to worry about getting too spicy for your workplace and possibly getting doxxed. It's all going to go away as soon as we're done here. We do have quite a bit to talk about, of course. And the first thing it's time for us to talk about is going to be I just wanted to do that on camera. Actually, I've done it twice already, but I wanted to make sure to get that in there because that is one of the bigger stories that we've had going on over the week here. So, uh, first and foremost, we had a pretty great State of the Union. And we're going to be talking a little bit more in detail about this when I have Quest Fanning on Monday. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what Quest Fanning has for opinions when he's actually up and prepared for the topic here instead of just coming in and volunteering on the spot. Story about Quest Fanning here for anybody else who's watching. If you're familiar with the gentleman here or familiar with this show, one day, few months ago, I had scheduled to have a woman who was, in a little bit of financial trouble, but I mean, she was trying to garner a following on Twitch, so they could try and uproot that. But she had a sick kid towards the time it was coming up to showtime, and I was sitting up here with no guest and an hour to go, and the good gentleman Quest Fanning, for my very first live stream ever on top of this all, was able to jump in and save me at the last minute. Now, we didn't have any webcam or anything because we were trying to figure this out at the last moment, but yes, he was able to jump in and give me a hand and save me at the last moment. And he did it completely unprepared, and it was a great show, so looking very forward to seeing what he has when he's prepared, and that's going to be coming up here. But we're going to go back to the State of the Union, and I mean, I've seen some very, very differing opinions about all of this as well. Mr. Behavior, Chris Lokes is here. Those of you who watch this show will remember that Chris was just on a couple weeks ago. He just moved, and make sure you go over there and check out his YouTube channel, which you're seeing there. And looks like he's playing video games again, so go check out his Twitch channel as well. And hey, maybe we'll get a collab going on. I know that Robert from the Generational Gap is planning on maybe doing a little bit of collab with me, possibly in the future, with a game that he's afraid that people are going to find out he plays. So that's going to be coming up and over there. Once again, as I said in the intro, Chris and Ron, if you want to take the conversation in a different direction than where I'm going, just start typing in the chat, and we'll read as we go. So, back to the State of the Union. I saw that there was some interesting things that came out of this here. I listened to Christensen's, well, I got through half of it. I had to work this morning. But one of the things that stood out to me is the fact that listening to Christensen's video, and I mean, Christensen is usually a very mellow, very even-tempered guy. He doesn't really get angry. He's quite a bit like me in that sense, in the fact that, I mean, I know he gets angry out in his real life, but he rarely shows it, especially when it's on the professional side. I got a little bit spicy on a rant on one of mine over here. But I've never really seen him get really spicy. He got a little bit spicy with a listener one day that tried to tell him what was going on and tried to tell him how he should run his show. But I mean, for the most part, when it comes to news and politics, he never gets spicy. But if you haven't checked out Christensen's video on the Ripped Herd Around the World, I recommend that you go and listen to it, because I genuinely saw him angry. Even or days after, when he was making the video, I generally saw the man angry, and he never ever gets angry. So it's worth talking about, especially given what we saw with the tear that was heard around the world. Now, this was an incredible speech. I think this was a Stephen Miller speech. I know Stephen Miller has written some of Trump's best speeches as we go along. No worries, I'll probably be back on Twitch later tonight, checking out this stream while writing a blog post for my website right now. Yeah, I'm going to be doing some blog posts coming up in the near future, too, and I'm going to be publishing a few to freedomscoop.com. Make sure you go over there and check out freedomscoop.com. It's we want to be your number one source for news, so make sure you check us out there, and we may have some new writers coming along and a new show coming along as well, so check us out for updates. You can also go check out Stephen Ignoramus, who is streaming concurrently with me right now, which, unfortunately, I hate fighting for audience with the guy, but, I mean, he's working with a guest and I'm just working alone, so anyway, yeah, check us out over on freedomscoop.com. So, anyway, going back to the tear that's heard around the world. Now, this is a great speech, and I mean, it highlighted a lot of accomplishments, and we really did have a lot of them to highlight, especially coming into this past year. I mean, if you look at where some of the people that we know, look at the people around you right now, and how many of them are in a better place than they were even just a year or two ago. Even within the Trump presidency, look how many of them are in a better place than where they were in 2017, 2018. 2019 was probably one of the best years of my life, personally. I mean, we had some problems, of course, but look around you. Wages are growing. I mean, I get a raise just about every year. I might not get one this year because my job, when they transferred me, we're not planning on spending as much as they were paying me when they transferred me. So I may be sitting at a wage for a little while unless I go out looking for a job again. But I mean, if I really did want to go out and look for a job and get out of where I'm working right now because they're not planning on giving me a raise for a while, it would be like nothing. And Chris, saw you were on Twitch earlier. I was leaving for a birthday party. Oh, well, happy birthday to whoever's birthday that it was. But in general, look around you. Look around this country. I mean, people are moving around. People have the money to move around. And once again, like I just mentioned, if you are dissatisfied with your job in any way, they know that they are going to have to fight to keep you at this point. I mean, there are a few places out there that are just a little bit less off, and most of that has to do with local politics, not national politics. But there's so many gloves that have come off of the economy on the federal level. So if you're having troubles in the area that you're living in, it's probably time to start talking to either your county commissioner, your city alderman, or your governor or legislatures in your state. Because under the Trump administration, even though they're fighting with the House right now and there's major uncertainty right now with that, the gloves are off as far as the federal level goes. I know his thought coming in was if you were going to make a new regulation for a business, you had to repeal two regulations in order to get it through. In order for him to ever consider signing a regulation on business, two had to go away on the federal level. And during that very first couple years of the Trump presidency, when he had the House, the Senate, and he was the president himself, they were averaging 16 regulations going away for every one that they were passing, which is incredible. And it's part of the reason that we're sitting here. Of course, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that went through both chambers of Congress and got signed by the president was one of the other big factors that went along with that, because people were able to keep more of their tax money going through the year. They weren't paying as much in per paycheck going through the year, and they were getting more back at the end of the year. Or less back at the end of the year because they had paid in considerably less throughout the year. And people were using that. They were trying to take this money and turn it into more. They were either buying bigger and better things, causing people to have more jobs, or a lot of them were starting smaller businesses and trying to realize the American dream and not work for somebody. I know that that's been something that I've been trying to do, is actually get a small business going, but I know that I wound up going a completely different route, but that's a different route that would have never happened had it not been for the Trump president. Well, I think we would have found a way to do it. We would have been taxed out of existence, and I don't know that we would have been able to collect without getting taxed out of existence. But I mean, the movement would have been there no matter what, because it was in my blood through the Obama years already. That's why I started blogging there. But to actually get it up off the ground, to get some more people into the organization, and for myself and the other people involved to try and build this into something that's actually going to have a pay model is not something that could have happened under a Hillary administration, especially if she was trying to carry on the legacy of Barack Obama while simultaneously trying to move into a Bernie Sanders economy. And nobody knew what she was going to be doing when she came out of this either. We just saw the fact that she said a lot of things and nobody knew which ones were right, and she spoke out of both sides of her mouth a lot. So you look around you, I mean, we're still doing things in the Middle East. That's going to be something that's going to be going on for a long time, and that's very unfortunate because we need to start getting out of the Middle East. It's a no-win situation at this point. I know Jen the Libertarian was on Twitter during the State of the Union saying, well, okay, you brought one person home, and referring to the I believe it was the Navy SEAL that hadn't seen his family in forever. Was it a Marine or a Navy SEAL? Somebody correct me in the chat. Anyway, the armed forces, the soldier, rather, who came home, was seeing his family for the first time in a long time, and Jen, rightly so, came out on Twitter and said, why don't you go ahead and bring the rest of them home? And I necessarily do agree with that sentiment. I think we need to be bringing a lot more people home than what we have coming home just for a show during the State of the Union speech. But, I mean, given and this is the other thing that came along with the speech, I mean, I know Ted Cruz claimed on his show with Michael Knowles that he was the one that told Trump, don't say anything about the impeachment. That's going to be a losing issue for you if you talk about the impeachment, so just don't say anything about it. And I mean, we had nothing. We didn't get anything about the impeachment at all. And that's a good thing. That's an absolutely incredible thing because he was able to highlight the Americans. He wasn't making it about himself. And, you know, I joke about Amy Klobuchar and the platform that she's bringing forward every time she gets up on the debate stage. But, I mean, that's what it was. Congressional Democrats are trying to say that the speech was nothing but Trump talking about himself, his own accomplishments, and everything else that he did. But for the most part, he was making it about the people that he helped, not necessarily about him. Okay, yes, the campaigning of the fact that they were doing this because of him, yes, that is there, but it was never I did this. It was we did this. It was, okay, our Congress got together and passed the laws. He, for the most part, didn't really make a lot of, and he's never really made a lot of his speeches about himself. For the most part, a lot of the speeches are about what the American people are doing with the fact that the government is getting the gloves off. And, I mean, the joke went around, it went around Facebook, obviously, when Barack was in office, I should say. I don't know if it went around Twitter because I wasn't on Twitter at the time, but I know it went around Facebook. But, I mean, you could sum up any Barack Obama speech in one word, and that word was me. So it was a great speech. But in the end of it, as we saw right at the beginning here, and Ron told me it was spicy, 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 was the fact that as we were panning away, it turns out that either she was pre-planning to do this, which Christensen talked a bit about this in the video and brought up some things that I didn't know about on this, or if she did this in the spur of the moment as well. But just before the cameras panned right back off of her, just before they went into commercial for most of the streams of the State of the Union speech, Nancy Pelosi very visibly got up and ripped her copy of the speech in half, which is what I wanted to talk about as we went along with this. Now, it was a symbolic thing, and of course, it wasn't just a moment of frustration. She knew the camera was looking at her when it happened. She knew that everything was still panned in there. And she was ultimately showing a show of disrespect. Now, a lot of her supporters are saying this is because Trump snubbed her in the handshake as he was coming in for the State of the Union speech. But, I mean, other people have pointed out that she started making the tear when Trump brought up the fact that Rush Limbaugh was getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which means that she sat for 40 minutes stewing in this before she tore the speech in half, if what Christensen said was accurate. And I've heard some other corroborating sources that have said the same thing, that she was planning this from the moment that she found out that the king of talk radio was going to be getting the Congressional Medal of Freedom. So I don't know what went through her mind, but I mean, it was a disgusting display. It was horrible to see, and this was such a positive speech. We talked about the Space Force. We had the soldiers come home. I mean, there were grants given out there. There was a Medal of Freedom given, the same medal that's been given to Tom Hanks and Ellen DeGeneres. I don't know what the strategy was behind this woman. I don't know if she's demented at this point and she's just doing whatever it takes. I mean, if she pre-tore the speech, then, I mean, I'm stronger than she is, and I didn't have to pre-tear the notebook paper that I tore in half just to make a point about this, but who knows what evil lurks in the minds of a mafia princess? The shadow knows. Aretha Franklin got one too. Yes, you're absolutely right, she did. I remember that. Anyway, I know we have a lot more planned about the speech when I have Quest Fanning on coming up this coming week. So I don't want to get too far into ranting about what's going on here. I do just want to let everybody know that what do we got? I saw a bunch of people bitching about the fact that Rush got the Medal of Freedom, even though a Tuskegee Airman was there, even though that mofo got one back in 2007. People are dumb. I thought it would have been funny if Trump handed her laminated sheets. Yeah, I've been seeing that that meme going around the internet for a few days now, actually. I think that absolutely would have been funny, but I mean, it is what it is, and he had no idea that she was planning any of this. So, in hindsight, yes, it would have been funny to see, but yeah. I do want to touch on the Tuskegee Airmen thing, though. That is a good point, because by all rights, yes, the Tuskegee Airman should be getting a medal for his service as well, and he possibly will get a medal somewhere in the future here. But number one, the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a civilian honor. The Tuskegee Airman is a military man, so he would be eligible and possibly deserving of a completely different award. He already has one. Does he have the Congressional Medal of Honor, or does he actually have a Medal of Freedom? Because as far as I knew, servicemen were not eligible for the Medal of Freedom. They are eligible for the Medal of Honor, which is, as the name implies, a higher honor altogether, but that's what I said. Yeah, exactly. So the other side of this here, and Michael Knowles actually brought up a good point on this on his show when he was talking about Limbaugh and the fact that he got this award, because one of the things that was brought up by, as the R-rated conservative likes to call her, AOC Biscuit, when she was complaining about the fact that she was boycotting this ceremony, is the fact that, well, I'm lost. I didn't watch either of the two state events. I'm not sure what you're talking about with the State of the Union. Anyway, so given the fact that AOC Biscuit was up here complaining when she actually boycotted the speech, but she was complaining about the fact that they didn't give a separate ceremony to the Medal of Freedom reception for Rush Limbaugh. That they did that right up in the middle of the ceremony. Now, let me explain something to you guys. Now, Rush is a wealthy man. He's made his fortune in talk radio. He's been a very popular voice. He's been broadcast across this country at this point. He's wealthy, and he can afford a certain level of medicine that is not available to people that are close to me. But the thing about lung cancer, especially at stage 4, is that it's almost irrelevant at that point. I have had 2 people very close in my life pass away from stage 4 lung cancer. One of them took a very long time, and one of them was very, very quick. Now, my aunt, my dad's youngest sister, got the diagnosis of stage 4 lung cancer, but it wasn't originally lung cancer when she got it. And my aunt has never touched a cigarette in her life, except for anything that she's held for one of her brothers, because all 4 of her brothers, I believe, at least at one point in their lifetime, smoked cigarettes, and I believe all 4 of them have quit now. I know my dad has. I know his oldest brother has, and his youngest brother has. I don't know if the third one is completely out of it yet. He might be, because I know he had a heart attack at one point too. So, yeah, none of them smoke now, but my aunt never touched a cigarette ever in her entire life. And she was able to go with a stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis for almost 3 years. She survived with that diagnosis on there. Now, my best friend's mother, somebody that I called mom, and somebody who loved me like I was her own child growing up, also got the stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis. But throughout the majority of her life, she was a very, very heavy smoker herself. So when she got the diagnosis of stage 4 lung cancer, it took months. And I'm not even talking like a lot of months. What was it? Once from what we found out to, it was, I think, 3 months from when I found out to when I was carrying her to her final resting place, because I was one of the pallbearers when this happened. It was a grand total of 3 months. So here's the reality of Rush getting this in the middle of the ceremony. We might not have time to make a separate ceremony for Limbaugh to get the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I know he's saying that he's going to continue working, he's going to get treatment, and he may have a long time to do this. He doesn't. He may get lucky His ability to put money into the medicinal system may help him along a little ways, but for the most part, he's got months. He does not have a long time. We don't know when we could have scheduled the Medal of Freedom ceremony for him. We don't know if he would have been around the next day to be up on his show, to be completely honest. So that was something that needed, if he was going to receive that honor, that was something that needed to be done right then and there. Because we just don't know. And that's my piece on that. And again, we are going to be talking a little bit more about this come Monday. So stay tuned for that. Only if they perfect that gene therapy that they recently discovered to fight cancer. Yeah, I don't think they have time to perfect that gene therapy in the amount of time that Limbaugh has left. That may be something when my generation starts getting old and getting lung cancer, because my half of the millennial generation smoked a lot. The back half didn't smoke so much, but my half of it smoked a lot. So it might be there for when we start getting lung cancer, but it is not going to be there for Rush. He's got months, maybe days. We don't know. Because we don't know how long he's been hiding this from the public. I know he said he didn't come out and say it right away as soon as he found out. We have no idea. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if he's got a contingency plan for when his show goes, or when he goes, for what to do with his show. But yeah, he has got months. So it is such a pain in the ass too. And I mean, you look over Twitter and you see all of these people sitting here talking about the fact that he deserves this and he deserves to die this horrible, gruesome death that he's going to die. And it is, from having two people close to me that have had the disease, he is going to die a horrible, gruesome death. And they're wishing this upon him. These people that are enemies of him. And the first thing they did was they brought up Michael J. Fox over this, because he may have said something disparaging about Michael J. Fox years ago. I've not been able to corroborate this, and I don't know how. Well, of course, they had the Reddit mob to go through and scrub through every second of Rush's program in a couple of days throughout the years to go find every instance when he was mean and nasty to somebody, to try and, shove it in the faces of everybody who's giving thoughts and prayers out to him. I hate to say this. I really hate to say this, because it's going to be one of the most horrible things that I've said. And I don't mean it to be horrible when I say this, but of course, some lefty is going to find a clip of this somewhere, and they're going to clip the next part of what I'm about to say is what they're going to clip, and they're going to ignore the rest of the context. I'm actually right now looking forward to the day that Ginsburg dies, and Bernard dies, and Biden dies. Not because I wish anything bad on them. I want to see what the reaction is from the political enemies of Joseph Biden, Bernard Sanders, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because it is not going to be anywhere near what the enemies of Rush Limbaugh put him through online these past couple weeks. It's going to be nothing close to that. It is fucking disgusting what these people have said about Limbaugh. And I don't necessarily care for Limbaugh. I think he is a sheep leading or shepherd rather, leading a sheep to slaughter. Because there are so many people out there that watch Limbaugh that just, what he says is gospel to them. They don't bother corroborating. They just take what he says at face value. And I know that that's a big part of his captive audience. That's a big part of the reason that he was able to spread it across the country. And as far as creative differences, I think on that part, that's disgusting of him. But I would never, for the love of God, wish the death that he is taking on the man, no matter how much I disagree with him creatively. I'll throw Pelosi and shift into, yeah. I'll bet Rush probably ignored their comments. He has thick skin. Yeah, he does, and I understand that. But there's still a level of respect for that. Welcome in Up in Smoke. Go ahead if you have any questions or anything you want to add to the conversation. This is a listener-based show, so we will go wherever the live chat takes us. That's actually because I was going to wait to talk about Rush until Monday on Ed's World, but because Ron and Chris brought it up, that's how we got onto that topic. Yeah, I am disgusted. And everybody's going to be respectful when Pelosi, Schiff, Biden, Sanders, and Ginsburg dies. I mean, yeah, there are going to be a few MAGAites that are out there celebrating, but They're going to be rare, and they're going to be denounced by their own side. They're going to be denounced by a vast majority of the right, the ones that are out there being vindictive and saying that they're glad that these 5 people that I just listed are dead. They are going to be rebuked by the rest of us online. And yet, when somebody says something bad about Rush, or they hope that Trump dies, or they hope that, well, back when they hoped that Bush died, I was even a little bit disturbed by what Stick said about H.W. Bush in the wake of the fact that he had just died, and it was the same thing with Razor Fist and John McCain. That was too soon for them, and I understand their disagreements with both of those men. I was not fond of either one of the men myself. But have a little respect. At least let the bodies get cold before you start saying stuff like that. Anyway, I'm a little bit wound up at this point. I didn't think I was going to get here today. Anyway, let's thank you Up in Smoke for that addition to this conversation. Anyway, as you can see by the title of this stream, we just had the season finale of The Federal Apprentice, which was a very good season finale, of course. In the season finale, we saw the acquittal, because in this country you are innocent until you're proven guilty. And Pelosi tried to actually change that when she was talking about the impeachment. She was trying to make it sound like you have to be vindicated by the court in order to be innocent. No. We are innocent until proven guilty in this country. That's how it's always been in this country, and that's how it will... Well, I'm not going to say that's how it will always be in this country, because, I mean, the authoritarian left is nipping at the heels of the government, and I know the direction that they want to take everything in. And the authoritarian Jesus right is nipping on the heels of the government, and they want to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to refrain from saying that's always going to be that way, that we're always going to be innocent until proven guilty in this country, but for the foreseeable future, hopefully through the rest of my life, we are going to be innocent until proven guilty in this country. But that's not what Nancy Pelosi wanted to see off of this impeachment. Of course, the first thing that she came out and said was, an acquittal does not necessarily mean you're innocent. Well, yeah, it kind of does. Because it's on the prosecution to prove the guilt. You are innocent until you're proven guilty. So if you can't prove guilt for anything, and that weak case that they had... Now, I'm not one of these people out there that thinks that the president can do no wrong. If you want to find any of them, go on Twitter and find somebody that has MAGA in their Twitter handle. I'm not one of these people. I definitely thought that phone call needed to be investigated. And there was a case there to be made. But they didn't make the case. Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and the impeachment managers far and wide did not make the case that was there to be made. They didn't. They didn't even try to. I don't have anything in my Twitter handle. I'm not on any teams yet. Well, you're on Team Real, apparently. Trump did nothing wrong. They decided before he took office that they wanted to take him out. Biden and his son were grafting. Potentially y'all's because y'all are chill. Yeah, absolutely, but I don't know. I just got pretty wound up. I don't know how chill I actually am. I got pretty angry about all that. Team Real. Yes, Real Mr. Behavior. You just lost a member of your team, actually, on Team Real, because Jake, the Grand Chancellor of Freedom Scoop, just dropped Real out of his name, I believe. I think it's Jake Freedom now, but I think he just took the Real back out of his name. Yeah, I got real wound up over that. That's going to get clipped at some point. Anyway. So, I saw a case there. I really did. Real Donald Trump. Yeah, you do have Trump on your team. I saw a case there. Continue the wars wrong. Take the guns wrong. End treaties wrong. Well... He can't actually end treaties. He can end agreements, but it does take an act of Congress for him to end a treaty. But I know that he's trying to urge at least the Senate, that's controlled by Republicans, to... and tariffs... Look, man, we got to get our money from somewhere, and I'd rather it come from out of the country than it come from in the country, but I also know that that is essentially taxation that's passed along to the consumer. So I used to be real protectionist when I was younger, but the more that I think about it, the more that I realize that the reason that we need to be protectionist is because we have so many regulations on our labor here. So fix our own house before we start going after other people. Yes, you are correct, Ed. They are agreements. Yeah. Yeah, like the Iran nuclear deal and NAFTA. Yeah. Anyway, going back to the phone call here. So, I mean, honestly, on the phone call here, I thought there was a case there, but they didn't bring it forward. They brought forward two completely non-statutory allegations against the president in the form of articles of impeachment. Of course, we remember what those are: abuse of power, which there was no real case for at all, and what was the other one? Obstruction of Congress, which, given the checks and balances that we have in the Constitution, that's the president's job, is to obstruct Congress. That's what he's supposed to do. That's what he got elected for. That's what Washington wanted him to do. The consumers pay the tariffs, and I'm not for getting milked even further by this mafia government. Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I'm not for that either. That's kind of why I took a step back from my protectionist stance. I know we need to do something different. Anyway, where was I going with this? Yeah. Yeah, it's in the Constitution. It is the president's job to obstruct Congress. And, you know, I was ranting about this on Twitter a little bit, and I think I ranted a bit about this on this show when the articles first came forward. When Nancy Pelosi announced what the articles were going to be, and obstruction of Congress was one of them. Because the first thought that I had in my head when she said that one of the articles of impeachment was going to be obstruction of Congress was, does every president that vetoes a bill from this point forward, is he going to be guilty of obstruction of Congress? Is this going to be the next thing? Because that's what a veto is. You're obstructing Congress at that point. Now, they're going to, well, he obstructed Congress in an investigation. Well, you've loosened the term up so much that, yes, that is going to be, I mean, there's no legal definition to obstruction of Congress. So, yes, any veto that comes forward by the standards that were set by this past impeachment are going to be obstruction of Congress and an impeachable offense. That's just the way that you set the world up. Now, we have some things going in the president's favor right now, and I actually think this is going to help across the country with the effort to take the progressives out of the House of Representatives, which we desperately need. Let's see what we got here. No abuse of power, no high crime, no misdemeanor. Investigating other politicians should never be off the table for the president to perform, I'm guessing is what you're trying to say. Biden, Obama, the hillbillies, I like that. Pelosi and any of their siblings who are grafting belonging to... Are you trying to say grifting, Ron? I don't know, because grafting is like when you burn off a big section of your skin and then they surgically put a cover over there of other skin to try and get it to heal up better. I think you're trying to say grifting, though. And if the Trumps are found to be doing the same thing, they can join them, fed up with the corruption in this country. Yes. Yes, I can see that. And I'm actually getting a little bit worried about how many people are out there right now that are very suddenly in favor of legacy politics and politicians letting their children be in power forever. I was actually arguing with Liberty Hangout earlier this morning, and I've got some traction. My tweet is getting right at, like, if people keep getting pissed off at that dude, that tweet is going to go viral, and enough people are going to see it to make it go viral. I don't know how many people are going to like it to make it go viral, but enough people are going to see it to make it go viral. I know Liberty Hangout posted this morning, because we didn't have a customer or any sort of order coming at work today, which is what I usually do on Saturday. Take customer calls, which we get very few of, and then process an order that comes in from our parent company. But we've got a strike going on right now, so I'm not getting any orders from said parent company. Graft is political kickbacks. I've never heard that term used for that, so I was unaware of that. I apologize for that. Anyway, Liberty Hangout, in his infinite wisdom, said that Trump needs to, uh, how did he put it? He needs to declare himself a monarch and then pass the office off to his children when he retires. Legacy politics. Fuck no. Now, the monarchy, just get the monarchy idea out of your head, because that's not going to happen in this country. And the people will rise up if we get a monarch, no matter how popular the president is, because that just opens the door for corruption. But yes, these people were starting to complain, and a lot of these people, the MAGA people especially, were complaining about the fact that Bill was going to be president, that Hillary was going to be the next president, and then they were going to pass it along to Chelsea. And a lot of these same MAGA people were pissed off by the fact that HW was president, and then W was president. And now they're suddenly okay with the fact that now they want Don Jr. to run in 2024, and Ivanka to run in, what would that be, 2032, and then Barron in, what the hell would that be, 2040. Let's see. Graft is political kickbacks. Noun, the acquisition of money, gain, or advantage by dishonest, unfair, or illegal means, especially through the abuse of one's position. Oh. Well, you learn something new every day, I guess. I thought Liberty Hangout was Caitlin Bennett's channel. Liberty Hangout is a collaboration between Caitlin Bennett and another guy whose name is Matt, and I know almost nothing about him. I know that he put up a picture of Dylan Roof at one point and tried to tell everybody that was him. And yeah, it's become, I don't even know what the hell to call it. A monarchic channel? They're not Liberty. I know they have the ANCAP symbol up on, they have the ANCAP colors and symbol, I guess, up on their Twitter page. I've never looked at their website, but yeah, that's a collaboration between the two of them. So yes, Caitlin Bennett is involved, but of course she does have her own web presence as well. But yeah. Yeah, as soon as I saw them starting, well, he's been talking about turning the country into a monarchy for a while. And he wants it to be a religious monarchy on top of that, which, once again, you're going to see violence in the streets and uprisings and all sorts of fun shit that we have been needing to be doing for a while. So, honestly, maybe it's a good thing, but I don't know, not that way. Let Barack and Michelle try and put Malia up in there, and then let the monarchy averse people rise up for that. Because Barack, and I don't know if that was actually his intention, but when I looked at the presidency and the legacy of Barack Hussein Obama, I saw somebody that was trying to make himself a monarch. Now, I can't be inside of his head. I can't tell you what it was that he was thinking. I can only go by the assessment of the actions after the fact, but he was definitely trying to make himself into a king or a monarch. And there are some days that I look at the legacy of Donald Trump and I see the same thing, but once again, I can't get inside the guy's head. And I mean, yes, I know he likes being an executive and he liked being an executive for life, but I can't attribute malice to anybody, but I can look at their actions, I guess. Anyway, how did we get down talking about... At this point, I don't see any way to put this government back on track of obeying the Constitution. Anybody... Well, there are ways to do that, too. And I had this argument with my mom the other night. Now, keep in mind the fact that both of my parents are staunch Union Democrats and have been for the rest of their lives. I could never see my parents voting for a Republican for my entire life because both of my grandfathers were Union men on both sides, and then my dad also went on to be a Union man. So my mom was raised by a Union man and married a man who was raised by a Union man who turned out to be a Union man. They're all Union men, so, I mean, I could see them leave the top of the ticket blank before I could ever see them put an R at the top of the ticket. Or anywhere else, anywhere on the ticket, for that matter. They would not vote before they would vote Republican. Your parents didn't vote for Reagan. I don't know. I was not born yet the first time for Reagan, and I was busy being, what would I have been, 7 months old. I was busy learning how to use a spoon when the second election came around. So I don't know what they did. I could ask them, I guess, but I got in the argument with my mom because she had pointed out the fact that we do need to put term limits in to try and get some of these people pulled because they're sitting in Congress for life. And I've never liked the idea of term limits. I like the idea of rotating some of these people out, but I don't think term limits is the way to do that because if you have term limits, you should ask them. He won the second time by a landslide. Yes, and the state that my dad has worked in for his entire adult life is the only state in the union that went for Mondale in 1984. But yes, because you did that, I will ask them. I wish they know how to watch this because I know they've watched a couple of things that I do live stream, and I know they wouldn't be able to comment in the comment section because I don't think that they know how to do that, unfortunately. It'd be great. I would love to actually see one of them respond to this. Anyway, regardless. So, going back to that, I'm not in favor of term limits. I've never been in favor of term limits. Millions of Democrats voted for Reagan. Yeah, I want to do more research into that election. I absolutely do. Because I like to say through a Mondale up when we're talking about this election cycle and the fact that nobody seems to be able to win. And for the most part, I think the DNC is just trying to push somebody up there to be the piñata. I think is what they're trying to do. They're trying to put a piñata up there and wait for 2024. Which, from what I understand, is what Walter Mondale was back in 1984. If I understand the political situation correctly from the little bit of research I have done into this. But anyway, we were going back and we were talking about term limits, and honestly, there are a lot of restrictions. And I've actually filled out the paperwork to run for the Senate in this state. I didn't go through with it because the ex broke up with me and I didn't know where I was going to be living by the end of it. But I have seen the paperwork. I know what's required of you. And of course, I know what social media is going to drag you through if you do decide to run, especially against a longtime incumbent. They're going to find everything about you and they're going to turn it all against you. And that's part of the problem that I think that we have here. Now, yeah, you're going to find out a lot of shit about me, especially the womanizing if I ever run for the Senate, or the House even for that matter. Maybe not in this district because I don't think our representative is very popular, but yeah, you're gonna find a lot of stuff about me in a hurry because there's a lot of stuff out there to find out about. And I know that is a bar for a lot of people running for public office right now. And what we need to do, rather than trying to put an artificial term limit in there and then just having the next corrupted person that was purchased by the lobbyists and the Soroses and the Kochs, rather than having that just next person waiting in line to take over the money stream that the person had before them, we actually need to loosen the regulations and get a lot of people running. Get a primary for every single seat. I mean, look at what AOC Biscuit did. Get a primary for every single seat. And let's see primaries for a Senate seat that look like this last Democrat primary. Let's see something like that. Wouldn't that be nice? Have 25 people duking it out with each other for the same seat. And may the best man win. Or, in the DNC's case this year, the Mondale. Democrats are the worst for digging for dirt and the fact that the media is left-leaning. Yeah, oh, absolutely. I already know what they're going to say about me if I run. I'm not going to give them the ammo. I'm not going to make it easy so they can go and just look at this video and go and find it. They're actually going to have to go on a digging expedition for it, but I know what they're going to find. I absolutely know what they're going to find. 100%. And I know what's back there to the point that I've actually considered calling up my ex-fiance and actually having the conversation with her. And I vowed never to speak to that woman again. But I know she's going to be one of the people that they're looking for when they decide that they want to go on their dirt digging expedition. 100%. I absolutely know that that's going to be one of them. And I don't know what she's going to say. I really don't. Regardless, yeah. So, yeah, we need to make the primary process bigger. We need to make it easier. We need to have some drunk guy in a bar come up and say, you know what? I'm going to run for Congress. And people to actually be able to take him seriously, and for him to actually be able to run up and do that. I mean, look at what Lenny Clark did in Massachusetts in, what was it, 79? 78. It was in the late 70s. And if you're unsure what I'm talking about, find a copy of the Comedy Central roast of Dennis Leary. If I could get around the copyrights somehow, I would actually stream it because it's hilarious. And I have a physical copy of there. I could stream it, but I know it would get shut down for copyright right away. But I mean, Lenny Clark got all coked up one night and all kinds of drunk in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and he got all kinds of pissed off, and he said that he was going to run for mayor. He's going to run for mayor at Cambridge, just out of the blue in the 70s. And then he actually ran. And his platform was fuck the Kennedys. I'm dead serious. So, I mean, he got, in Massachusetts, if you decide that you're going to run for any political office up there, the state has money set aside to give to all candidates so you can go out and get stickers and buttons and crap printed up. They've got public money set aside for that, which is corrupt as all hell to begin with. It's your behavior. That's hilarious. I'm going to find a way to stream that. Even if I have to do it like a private streaming party, somehow, I will find a way for us to watch this together. I'm going to talk to Ignoramus about this. We are going to watch this together. Give me a couple weeks to figure this out. We're going to watch this together. Like I said, even if it has to be invite only, we're going to watch this together. And see all the jokes that couldn't be told today that were told in 2004. Anyway, so, I mean, Lenny Clark is running around. He's got nobody knows what's going on at the end of this. He's got all these buttons out there. What do you mean, fuck the Kennedys? Who the hell is Lenny? That kind of thing is going on. And I've talked, because I lived out there. How does that one Twitch channel stream older movies with impunity? What's the name? I have no idea. I've never heard of that. I know, actually, Twitch had a... I'll talk to Spook Girl about that. She was talking something about having viewing parties. I think they have a list, though, that they have to go from. That it's a pretty specific list, so... I don't know. I will figure that out. We are going to watch this together because it's funny and you have to see the political aspect of it. But, I mean, that had a lasting impression and people remember that still. The fact that Lenny Clark ran. I lived out there and, like, nobody my age knew what was going on or had heard anything about it, save for what was done in the Leary roast. But, like, I talked to my ex's parents while I was out there and, yes, they clearly remember that. Public domain movies. Yeah, I'll look into that. Anyway, yeah. No, we need to make it easier for people to run. Let 25 people duke it out for a House seat. And then the next year, let 25 more people duke it out for the House seat. And if the guy that was in there can keep his ideas flowing, can keep good ideas in and actually accomplish what he wanted to accomplish, then he'll get another term. If he can't, fuck that dude. He's gone. Or we can put term limits in, and just like the presidency has been for, the past 60 years. Once he's termed out, the next corrupt bastard is sitting there in the wings. So, I mean, look at what we saw with Hillary. Barack was termed out, and we had another corrupt Democrat, neoliberal, waiting in the wings to go and take his place. And the government was already planning to have her in his place. We don't want the government to pick our... And that's one of the things that pissed me off the most about this, the impeachment. The thing that pissed me off the most about the impeachment, as I was watching all of this all the way through, is that the House of Representatives, the neocons in the Senate, thank you, Mitt fucking Romney, and the government in general were trying to say, fuck you people, we don't like the person that you chose to be president. We are going to choose your president for you. I mean, right away, this wasn't about anything that Trump had done. This was about overturning the 2016 election, overturning the will of the people. The people don't have a decision. They don't have a choice. They don't have a voice in the matter anymore. It's not a government by the people for the people. And that's part of the reason that they were so pissed off, I think. One of the things I've lauded Trump for, and I don't really care for him, I'm not going to lie. Right now, I will vote for him again. For this reason and this reason only. I voted for him the first time, knowing that he was a Manhattan Democrat with authoritarian executive leanings. That was baked into the cake when I pulled the lever. I knew what I was getting into. I didn't think it was ever going to get to this point, but I knew that what I was getting into when I said, yes, I will cast my vote for Donald John Trump. Donald Trump is not one of us. He's a very, very wealthy elite person. Part of the reason he was able to self-fund most of his campaign is that he is a wealthy, wealthy billionaire playboy. But the thing about Trump is he's not one of them either. And while, yes, we may say that he's not setting the example, he's not one of us, it's not a by the people, for the people kind of situation that he's running, he opened the door for us to make it that. The door is open. You don't have to be preen from birth to run for an office anymore. Now, they still have safeguards in place. Of course, obviously, there's the criminal background, but I mean, they're doing huge background checks. The FBI is looking into everything you've ever touched for the entire time you've been alive. Now they want to get rid of the electoral system, but the electoral system is doing what it's designed to do, prevent large states from determining the presidential elections. Yeah. And look at the video that's on the cover of my channel. The one that I chose to be what I wanted to represent to the people when they came in and they looked at my channel for the first time. The Senate was under attack because Montana has the same amount of say in the upper chamber as California. Wyoming has the same amount of say as New York. Rhode Island has the same amount of say as Massachusetts. Let's do an example that's contemporary to the time period that was going on. Rhode Island has the same amount of say in the Senate as all the other 12 colonies at the time. And there were like 70 people in Rhode Island at the time. I think it was more than that, but each state has an equal say at the electoral election. Do away with the electoral system, then states' rights is completely nullified. Yes, absolutely. That's been my biggest pet project since I started getting into politics, is states' rights. I know that makes me not a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian because I do believe in states' rights. The state can decide what level of government is appropriate for the people of that state. And if the people of the state disagree with it, they can tell that state's government to fuck off and either take over the government or move to another state that has the appropriate amount of government that they are seeking. Instead, the federal government is trying to institute the level of government that they think that we need on a federal level. And fuck that. Now that we're shut down on YouTube, fuck that. I don't know if we're actually shut down or not, but I've been dropping the F-bomb left and right, so I wouldn't be surprised if we are shut down on YouTube at this point. No. If you are going to provide me with a set level of government that I do not agree with, you are going to give me the option to move to a state that has a level of government that I agree with. Wisconsin is trying to push to put more government on top of us. And as soon as that dickhead Evers was elected into office, I'm not going to lie, I started looking at Iowa. Because Iowa has almost no government. I started looking at Southern Illinois too, and then I said, "The hell with that." One size fits all coming out of Washington, D.C. doesn't work, and the founding fathers knew that even before there was a Washington, D.C. The quality of life and the necessities of the people in New Hampshire were vastly different than the necessities of the people in Georgia. Even back in 1791, there were vast differences between the needs of the people of both states, and that is even more true today. California needs a lot more water. Montana needs a lot more people. Wisconsin needs an environment that's friendly to industry and farming both. New York needs an industry that's mostly friendly to silicon and tech companies and a lot of finance. We all need different things, and we all need different levels of government in this country, and that's why we have a state system. That's why this one-size-fits-all bullshit that they're trying to push across that heavily favors places like New York and California is going to lead to violent uprisings if they do manage to get it across. It is why we need to continue to watch the government, and it's why I do this, why I've planned to run for office, why I'm covering all my bases to make sure that I know what they're going to pull out against me if I run for office. But for the most part, why I bought a webcam and a microphone. The libertarian idea doesn't work for some people. And those people can move to California, where the government controls every aspect of your life. The authoritarian model doesn't work for all people. And those people can move to Wyoming, where there aren't enough people to govern. But we need to have that freedom, or we are not a free country. We're not a free country. We are beholden to the whims of New York City and Los Angeles. And I think with that, we're going to wrap this up, because I think I've lost my entire audience as it is. But I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come in, and I know we moved the conversation a little ways out from where I wanted to go, but I'm absolutely okay with that. I like that here. Ron, if you are still in here, say hi, because I'm going to pop the chest if you are. Otherwise, we're going to wait till Monday to pop it. But we're going to start wrapping this up here. Once again, tune in on Monday. That's going to be at 6:30 Central Time when I have Quest Fanning on, and we're actually going to do a more detailed look into what happened with the State of the Union, what happened with this last public debate, and what's happened since the acquittal went through, because we haven't had Ed's World since we actually got the legal acquittal. There was still a chance the last time we talked on Ed's World over this. Ron, do you want me to pop the chest now, or do you want me to do it a bit later? Let's see what's in the chest. If we've generated a significant amount more than what was in there before I started, we'll pop it. Otherwise, we're not going to. Yeah, we're going to do it later, because I can see that, yeah, we only generated one more lino from this, so we'll do it later. We'll get it built up, and we'll get a big bonus, and possibly if I get some more donations on Monday, I'll throw a bunch more lemons in there, because that's going to be my thank you, especially to you guys for coming in and watching this. So anyway, tune in on Monday. I might, depends on if it snows or not. I don't know if I'm going to be going up and seeing the girlfriend tomorrow or not, because we're supposed to get an absolute blizzard here tomorrow. So if I can't do that, we'll do a Stardew Sunday tomorrow. We'll do a couple hours of that, and we'll do some more chatting in there. So tune in for that. Tina Baker, we're actually wrapping up right now. If you have any questions, why don't you go ahead and get them into the chat right now while I'm doing the closing. But I know we were getting ready to wrap things up here. We've been on for an hour. That's usually what the Ed Talk goes on. I did take some time and talk about the impeachment, why we have there. We talked a little bit of states' rights. We talked a little bit about how to structure the political system. You can go ahead and check this back out or on the replay. It'll be on YouTube, or I'm actually going to, I've been promising this for a couple weeks, but I'm going to pull the audio from this, and I'm going to put it up on Google Play, Stitcher, and iTunes. So you can check us back out on the audio platforms. I don't know where my lemons came from. I know you get a few lemons right off in the beginning. I know that if they pop the chest, sometimes you'll get a couple of lemons here and there. If you're watching a stream where they pop open the chest, you'll get some there. But I know that lemons are generated by DLive by how much people talk. So the more you talk in the chat, the more goes into the chest, and the more comes out when I go and pop the chest. Anyway, go ahead and check us back out on Monday. I will be popping the chest on Monday as well. So if you want to watch this over on Monday, make sure you watch on DLive, and you'll get that sweet, sweet Lino reward. And that'll be my thank you for coming in and watching all these shows as you go along here. We will be back in 2 weeks for another Ed Talk. But don't you have to click something to claim? I don't think you do, because I know that I was watching an Ignoramus stream one night, and I went to bed while he was still streaming, and I woke up and I had a whole bunch of lemons that I didn't know I had. So I think it does do it automatically, passively, but I don't know. I don't understand how their system works. I just know that it works. Anyway. Weather permitting, or weather denying, I should say, we may be back here tomorrow for another stream of for Stardew Valley. We'll do a Stardew Sunday. We'll do some farming. We'll do some chatting. We'll do some talking over there. Maybe Tina Baker can come in and ask some questions while I'm in the chat. I will always read the chat, and I'll always answer any questions that are in there. So if the weather happens to be not in my favor for driving tomorrow, go ahead and pop in, and we'll play some video games tomorrow. Otherwise, we will be back on Monday at 6:30 Central with the Great Quest Fanning. So check us out on Ed's World there. We've got a full show planned for that already. Make sure you check us out over on freedomscoop.com. Check out all of the other great guests that podcasters we have over there, the Generational Gap and the Daily Ignoramus. Check us out over there. And as always, thank you for coming to my Ed Talk. Take care.